Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Dave, welcome to Consulting Leaders. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
It's amazing to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell the audience what you are all about and who is Steve August.
Yeah, well, my name is Steve August, as you just said, and I'm living out here in Portland, Oregon on the U.S. West Coast. And my gig is helping ADHD entrepreneurs succeed in business and life, right? To transform the overwhelm and the chaos and the brilliance and into something that has structure, that has progress, and we do it in a way that is supportive for everybody's unique ADHD brain. And it makes sense because I was only diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago at age 54. And before that, I had taken my first startup from idea to a successful multi-million-dollar exit. I had worked for the company that acquired us and had become a CMO of a $100 million company, reporting to a private equity board, which I can tell you is not as fun as it sounds. And it doesn't sound very fun. And I had my own successful coaching practice and did all that, not understanding the big ADHD tax I was paying, how I had to work so much harder, how my brain actually, essentially made it more challenging to do all those things. So on the outside, it's like, yeah, pretty successful, but on the inside, just a really challenging journey. And then when I got my diagnosis at age 54, it's like, oh, wait, this is what's been going on. As one person I talked to said, it's like getting the blueprints to the house you've lived in your whole life. And I started to make sense of it. And I realized as I had launched my coaching practice that I had been in other coaching programs, and I would see other people who had accomplished less than I had, like make progress more than I did. I'd be like, what's going on? And then I suddenly realized once I got the ADHD diagnosis and understood what my brain was doing, it's like, oh, like if you're going to make the progress you want, you got to support both the ADHD brain side of things and the business side of things. And so that's what I help other entrepreneurs do.
What made you take a test or what made you get diagnosed for potentially ADHD at age 54?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was never hyper as a kid, and I was never hyper as an adult, really. So it's like, how can I be ADHD? I'm not hyper. But I hit this wall in 2022, 2023, and I got to this point, and there had been, we all went through COVID, and I had a business that COVID kind of submarined, and then our kid got really sick, and I got to 2022, 2023, and my business was actually the coaching business was one of the best years I've ever had. But I couldn't make anything happen. It wasn't that I couldn't finish the email. I couldn't finish the first sentence of the email with my brain not just going over to YouTube or wherever, right? And I was like, wait, this is, I think, a little bit more than just this kind of distracted social media algorithm-driven world we live in, where like the biggest companies go out and hire the biggest brains to essentially hack and monetize our attention. That's the whole model, right? And I said, this isn't just that anymore. This is something that I think has gone a little bit beyond that. So I said, okay, well, maybe it is ADHD. So let me get an assessment from the doctor. Doctor does the assessment. He's like, yep. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. And it's fascinating because like a lot of medical systems, U.S. medical system is very much a diagnose and prescribe. So you have ADHD. Here's your Adderall. Off you go. You're fixed. And it didn't quite work that simply to me. The Adderall did help for a while, but then didn't. And that's when I really started digging into learning more about what ADHD is comprised of and more about being as much about performance versus attention. And that's what that led me to the path that I'm in right now.
So tell us more about that path. What's the program that you have? Why did you start it? What's the mission? Like, tell us everything about your program.
Yeah, so the program grew out of me essentially learning about my ADHD brain and learning about, okay, these are executive function issues as much as they are attention issues. Like ADHD is like the worst name for this disorder, like because it's not a deficit of attention. It's actually a surplus. We're paying attention to anything,
Yeah.
everything. And the challenge is like, can we put our focus where we want it when we want it, right? And then and it doesn't always have anything to do with hyperactivity. So what I started to do was basically started to talk about and write about and share, like, here's what's going on with me. I got this diagnosis. I'm 50, I guess I was 54 at the time. Like, yeah, I've lived my whole life and all of a sudden I'm getting a clue. And so I started sharing things that were working for me. And I had that realization that, look, if you're working with an ADHD brain on a business, that's going to control everything that happens in your business. Like, and if it's an executive function challenge, then that's the planning, that's prioritization, really challenging. That's task initiation, that's emotional regulation, that's impulse control. All these things that on some level, like, give us a really good basis to start a business, like, because we're always generating ideas, we're learning, creating, thinking outside the box. But when it comes to like building and growing the business, where you need iterative, focused, kind of almost boring work that I call the dopamine desert, that's where the progress is. And it can get really challenging for a business, an ADHD entrepreneur, to grow their business in the way that they know they can, and the way the
Mm-hmm.
business has the potential to. So what I started to do was think about, okay, so how do we start from like a brain first approach? Let's change the question from how do we get all this stuff done? How do we make $1 billion to how do we just best work with our brain to get where we want to go? Right. And that changes things. Right. And so one of the things that ADHD brains have a lot of challenges with is time. Right. Time blindness, it's called. So we have challenges estimating how long anything's going to take. We have challenges like if we're in hyper focus and we're really interested in something, an hour feels like a minute. If it's the other way, where we're not interested in it, it's a minute feels like an hour. Right. And then as you go further out in time, it gets harder to plan to stuff. Right. If you go out a quarter or a year, that's a almost impossible timeline for an ADHD brain to motivate to. Like, it's like, it sounds good, right? And even sometimes what I saw with me and some other folks is that money itself, like that reward, isn't
Yeah.
enough in the dopamine desert. Like, the dopamine comes from two places: intense interest and urgent consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in between is the dopamine desert. So what I developed was a program called Your Weekly OS. And it's basically, the week turned out to be the best container to make progress, because quarters and years way too far out, ADHD brains can't manage and motivate to that or plan to it. And days are way too variable. Like, your day will blow up in a heartbeat. So if you're not able to recover from your day, that's really challenging. But a week, that's what we can really handle a week. That gives us enough flexibility and enough structure. And so I created a program that takes people through essentially building out how to like create your week, how to lay it out, how to there's three things that the ADHD kind of really makes hard for ADHD brains, and that is deciding. So what is actually important now? Because in an ADHD brain, everything is equally urgent and equally important. That makes it really hard to figure out what you should do next. It makes it hard to start, focus, and finish. So the doing, so deciding, doing, and then sustaining that over time is where the compounding in business and life happens. So I saw that and then started to develop a program to help ADHD entrepreneurs, prioritize, decide, start, focus, and finish, and sustain that over time.
So I like that. And I suspect your target clients are ADHD entrepreneurs, right? Is there a specific niche? Is there a specific moments of the journey of an ADHD brain that you particularly help? Like, how did you position your offer, and who is it that you're targeting specifically?
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's there's a course I'm in with Marissa Murgatroyd, who's a big in the online course space, right?
Okay.
And I heard this from her first. I don't know if she was the one who actually created this, but there's two ways to look at it: is like a niche or a tribe, right? And in some ways,
Yeah.
a niche is actually easier. It's like I'm just going to talk to like B2B, enterprise software founders. Like that's a really good niche. But what I have found that it's more of a tribe is that we all have a brain that is impacting us in a very similar way as we grow our business. So I have people in there that are accounting folks. I have people that are creatives. I have people that are, working a current job to like start a new job, or people who are just launching their businesses. And the sort of the common denominator is they've all recognized that what they've been trying to do before, they've hit that wall that I hit where I was like, I can't even finish the damn sentence on the email. Like they get to that point, whatever that is for them, where they're like, I know I need to do the things. And it's not a matter of intelligence or ability or talent or skills or experience. They're like, I know all this stuff. I've done it. And often it's from folks who spend a lot of time in more corporate or more structured environments. And suddenly now they are starting out on their own. And entrepreneurship is a game where you have to provide a lot of the structure. And so that's challenging. And so I see the people who really gravitate to this are folks who kind of have gotten to that point where it's like, okay, I finally understand that I have to tackle the brain stuff first, or in parallel with the business stuff, because the two are inextricably linked. If I can get better at like prioritizing, understanding what's important, actually making progress on what's important, and kind of just understanding where my brain is and meeting it where it's at, my experience in life is going to change. Like I'm going to make progress. I'm going to not have the productivity shame or the guilt spiral of getting to the end of the week and like surveying the wreckage is like, what just happened? Like I had all this time, I had all these plans, and I'm at the end of the week and nothing that I thought was going to get done got done. And a lot of things that I didn't think I was going to do did. And I don't feel any further along. And that's what we start to make happen.
So when you talk about it, it is so clear. I need to get tested for ADHD, and I like the way you've nailed it. So what's your overall marketing strategy to get the right pair of eyeballs? Because in your case, it's even more complex because it's not just a specific industry or I don't know a niche whatsoever. It's people with a particularity. So how do you market to your target clients, and what has been your overall marketing strategy over the last few years since you started the program?
Yeah, so it's evolved a bit, and you're right. It's different. Like I can't go into LinkedIn or Facebook and say,
Right.
target the ADHD people. It's like that is
That's a
not going to be
bridge.
though. Yeah, that's maybe a pre 20, pre 2016. Cambridge Analytica Facebook might be able to do that, but
Exactly.
not since. And so it's a couple of things, right? At the beginning of the year, I was really I had run ads in my very simple, straightforward ads, very rudimentary, but they worked. And basically, it was an ad to a quiz, right? And
Yeah.
so before when I was coaching startup founders, it was like, "What's your founder type?" And that was very
Mhm.
successful. And then when I pivoted over to the ADHD or evolved into the ADHD, I had a quiz called "Are You an ADHD Entrepreneur?" And on one level, it converted pretty well. Right. Just basic cold ad on Facebook, not on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's been my channel generally, because I'm dealing with entrepreneurs, and it tends to be like the leads
They are
tend
on
to be,
LinkedIn.
the leads tend to be cheaper on Facebook, but noisier. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, and, but what I saw with LinkedIn after a while, I did at some point say, okay, I'm doing it very rudimentary. If I could bring somebody else in here, an agency who's more skilled, then maybe I'm leaving something on the table. So we did switch over and did a lot of thought leader ads, where we would just have to take posts that blew up. Uh, blew up. Uh, Nothing really has blown up on LinkedIn in that sense. But what I've also learned with LinkedIn, it's not about necessarily blowing up. It's about sometimes it's just what's the thing that you put out there, the post that gets somebody to take an action, right? And a lot of times people won't react to it because they don't want people, especially with a ADHD type of thing or a medical type of thing, because they don't want to necessarily share that publicly. But they'll reach out and DM you. But I found that to start to be a little bit challenging on that front. It's just so variable, and it's a long-term game. And the budget that I had to deploy to it at that point felt like, this is great, but as soon as I shut off the budget, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I had a podcast previously. It was audio only, and it was what I learned later was kind of an ADHD coping mechanism. It was like I was having such a hard time writing emails, and somebody just said, well, just speak your emails. And that turned into a podcast. Right. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the process of coming up with an idea and recording it and just talking. And so I started to revisit that again, because I knew that people would say, I listened to your podcast, this one episode, and I knew you were the person to work with me. Right. In a way that I didn't necessarily get with an ad. Like an ad, yes, it can happen, especially if you're using, a thought leader type ad where it's like you're expressing and sharing something that's of value, and it echoes their experience. But what I started, when I engaged with you guys, is like I was at the point where it's like, I think for this particular topic, for ADHD and for entrepreneurship, where I have this kind of unique blend of, I've got lived experiences in both. Like I've seen what the entrepreneur journey is from two people in a room to, a boardroom in London. And I've lived my whole life with ADHD and have gotten kind of a huge understanding of that, and being able to share those experiences and then just create that environment of that feeling or that vibe of like, hey, I'm not going to Tony Robbins you. I'm not going to rah-rah you out of this thing. We're going to actually talk about what's really going on. And I'm going to give you some value. I'm going to reflect back the experience that you're probably feeling and tell you why it's happening and help you figure out like a next step. And that's what I get a lot, is like, how are you inside my head? Right. And so what I decided to do, also because I had this old video on YouTube from 2019 on a totally different topic, and I was just starting to get these random leads to it. And I'm like, if that's happening from 2019 on this random thing, what would happen if we actually started to push stuff out there on a regular basis? And what if we had more presence on that side of things? So for the second half of the year, I really started to put more emphasis on podcast, by signing up with you guys and using your service and leveraging your guys' experience and the production and everything. And that it's really been an interesting change over the last 6 months. The thing that's really nice is I'll see, like, somebody just joined the accelerator so I have a program, your Weekly OS, and I have another program called ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. And that's where people tend to go after they finish the 3 to 6 weeks in Weekly OS. Then it's like, they want to keep the momentum going, continue on with the community. Right. And I've had people just jump into the community just from the basis of a podcast episode, or they see it on YouTube. I had a guy said, I just saw it on YouTube and I was like, I'm ready to go now. And signed up the next day. So what I'm seeing is from that it's just kind of next level of like the thought leader ad, in a sense. It's, you get it out there, people will start seeing it, and they hear it, and then they're able, like, I do really short episodes, right? If I go over 10 minutes, like, I'm talking to ADHD people, 10 minutes feels like a long time to them. So if I go over 10 minutes, it's a long episode. Yeah. But that lets them go and binge through a whole bunch of stuff, and they can say, oh, okay, this is really helpful. And then there's a natural progression. So my lead magnet changed from the quiz. It's still out there, the quiz. People can take that, to something that helps them right away. And this is a dashboard that I built up in a tool called X-Tiles, and have had some really good success partnering with those guys to like do webinars on that. And that helps people take the next step, right? Because there always has to be a next step, and that's the offer, is like, hey, if your weeks feel out of control, like, and that's the best place to start. That's where all the ADHD issues can kind of come home to roost, is like they're all going to like present themselves over the course of the week. Start with that. And, it's a dashboard with a few training videos, and then it takes them to a sequence with a bigger kind of like, here's how to fix it. And if you want to, or fix it, but here's how to make progress. And if that sounds good to you, then the next step is to join the weekly OS program. And it feels good. I mean, and I can see it's been interesting because I continue to run LinkedIn ads, but I see the tide kind of turning in terms of where the lead's coming from. And I see, more consistently the leads starting to come from the podcast. So whether it's YouTube, and we're tracking this stuff, YouTube or the podcast. I've even seen some folks from TikTok come in. We just started TikTok, I don't know, a couple months ago. And it's really fascinating to see. And I feel like we're still kind of early and at the beginning of it. But the beauty of it is like seeing it, a lead come in from an episode that was, 2 months ago, and is still out there. So it feels like it's still early in the game on building the followings on the different platforms, but it feels like it's building something that's much more evergreen than the ads are.
Well, there are so many golden nuggets of knowledge that I want to double down on here, Steve. So I love that you made the distinction between ads and podcasts. First of all, I do genuinely believe that any channel can work, right? Ads can work, SEO can work, YouTube can work, TikTok can work, podcast can work. The whole idea is what's gonna get you the biggest bang for your buck, obviously. What's the most relevant for your niche and the type of message that you want to get across. I had a client say this to me recently in the finance space. He's like, finance people are low on trust. So it's hard for them to trust. And I believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but with ADHD entrepreneurs, that might be the same because they've, like you, tried so many things beforehand that didn't work completely. So the fact of having a podcast helps you connect with that audience, even for 7 to 10 minutes, right? Which is your average solo episodes. But the fact of providing value, real value, for 7 to 10 minutes straight, 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever it ends up being, and be like, hey, this is for free, this is for you. Not only is it evergreen, but it also helps people. And when you help people, you naturally attract them to you because they will want more. And they will be coming to you ready with their credit card, or almost, to be able to work with you. So I like that. And then the other thing is, it doesn't mean ads don't work. It's just that depending on the niche, there is something you want to insist on or not. Now, the real power is when you turn on ads, once you have some middle of funnel, long form content like the podcast, and then you make it work even better. So that's the way you do podcast. I like it. Can you tell us a bit more about where you were before you started the podcast again? Because sake of transparency, you had a podcast before as well, right? So you weren't completely new to the game, but like you started your program. Where were you kind of before you got into the podcast together with us? And where is the business at now? And where do you want to take it next?
Yeah, so it's been interesting, a tale of two podcasts, because my original podcast was called Rocket Ship Founder, and it was very much geared towards startup founders, and it was audio only because I just didn't have the bandwidth to like do video, and it's been really an amazing year in that, when you pivot a business, sometimes the pivot like takes hold right away, or evolve a business, right? And sometimes you're feeling your way through it. It's like a restart. And to me, it was a feeling my way through it. And then the second half of this year, things really started to take off. So the community was, 10 people. The accelerator community is now like getting close to 50. The weekly OS, I think we just had our 100th student go register. So from a course that didn't really exist earlier in the year. And so that's all it's starting to prove itself out in the transformations and testimonials that it's been life-changing for a lot of people who have come through the course and are in the community. They just experience life differently and their business differently. And not just the business results. Like we had somebody who just last week. He landed a 30K, client contract, and that was like amazing. But then there's these other things where one person, one of their lifelong ambitions was to do their singer-songwriter album for themselves, and they never felt like they had time to do it or couldn't do it, and then they did it, and they were just like, I did it because of the program, because of being able to like make the progress I was able to make in the rest of my life. I was able to do it, and it's just like this kind of opening up. So the results have been really transformational, and you just see the growth of folks who their businesses are growing, their lives are changing, and so the impact that we're making, that's what's going to start happening now is I got to talk about that more. I got right is just sharing what's been happening and seeing, because it is really amazing, and it's so gratifying as well. So I think the business is like, it's proved out, and I think what we're setting the stage for in 2026 is to really explode. So my mission is to help as many ADHD entrepreneurs as possible get out of overwhelm, claim their focus, and make build a life and a business that feels free, right? And for those of you who have ADHD and feel the weight of it, sometimes I just did an episode recently called ADHD claustrophobia, because it has a way of shrinking your world, because you don't trust yourself to like get stuff done. So you're reserving all that time, and sometimes it shrinks. It feels very heavy. And to see that people starting to feel lighter and feel freer and enjoying their weekends and dealing with the problems of like, I don't know what to do when I'm not stressed. That's stressful. Okay. That is a quality problem. We can work with you on that. So that is to grow that, that community and the program into something that, is helping. Like the big number is the 1,000 number, is like I could get to 1,000 people, and that gets us into a 7-figure business as well. But I just think of it as how much impact could that be, right? In the sense of what is possible, and that's what drives me.
This is awesome, and hearing you, I see how driven you are, and that warms my heart. And I think to all the results, and you said it right, the money is great. Of course, we all want to grow and make money. I think when you're able to see the results that you get for people you're helping, and the thing you mentioned, the testimonials, the case studies, this is why we are doing all this, right? At the end of the day, is to help people. You're only gonna make money if you're helping people genuinely, right? And I talk about real good money over time. And so a couple of things I want to highlight as well in your funnel and the way you do things. What I like a lot about your offer is that it's not just, hey, jump into the highest ticket offer. It's like, hey, here is a bit of help for free with the podcast. Hey, here is a bit of help with the dashboard. Hey, here is the challenge, the weekly OS, and hey, here is the community if you'd like. And like, you take people, you provide value at each step, and I think that explains the success that you're having as well. Like, for sure, there is a good marketing behind it, but the offer and the result that people get out of it works a lot. I know you're displaying those on your website, which is why I'm asking, but let me know if you're not comfortable sharing. In terms of like price range and the amounts that you charge for the programs and the weekly OS, just to have a ballpark idea of like, hey, this is where we started, this is where we are now. Are you comfortable sharing those metrics?
Sure. Yeah. So the weekly OS has evolved. At one point it was $99. Now it's $499.
Okay.
The one thing I do for people is if you sign up, you get the dashboard within, and you want to sign up for it in the first 4 days, you can get it for $199 instead of $499. So it's just sort of a reward for fast action. And then the program, the ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator, there have been 2 tiers. The one tier is going away. But the $99 a month tier has really exploded, because it does feature, like, we host co-working sessions every day, and we do it in 3 time zones, in the GMT time zone and the Eastern US time zone in the morning, and then in the Pacific time zone in the morning as well. And people just love the co-working, sometimes called body doubling, but it's just like the magic that makes things happen. And so that is that's a screamingly good deal. and because the progress that people make, right? And that's what's exciting. So that's what's really taking off right now.
I love that for you. What's the next? What's the next big thing for you, Steve? What are you looking forward to? What are you gonna work on? That's gonna take your whole business to the next level, but also help more people take their business to the next level.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I teach is about having a magnetic north, right? Because ADHD brains, one of the things they have a really hard time with is figuring out what's important, right? And so having a magnetic north that kind of pulls you, and my magnetic north is a mission, like help ADHD entrepreneurs, and a vision. How do I want my life to look, right? Because you can serve a mission a lot of ways, and in some ways it will line up with how you want your life to be. In other ways, it will not. And so one of the things that I'm super excited about this year is I actually was going at this I'm just going to solopreneur this. I've done my company building. I don't necessarily want to build a company because it has its own calendar that it comes with and all the things. But I'm also seeing, I'm in the way right now in a big way. And so I'm actually, excited to start expanding the team. We've added new. It used to be I was the only co-working host. Now we've got 3 other co-working hosts, and I can just see this being and they're all coming out of the community because it's such a tight and wonderful and accepting and warm community where you can just be exactly whatever your brain is on a given day. And so I'm super excited about essentially unblocking the things that are blocked, right? So if I'm blocking the growth, I can spend more time on the overall design. I can spend more time on the podcast and communicating and building relationships with people. And then we have people who can be in the community and community manage and help me with the CRM and all that stuff that I can do, but I'm actually holding us back. And, if I was coaching myself, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing here? So
slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's actually give this thing what it deserves, because I do see the impact it's creating. And so there's going to be a small team, really amazing team that's going to come into play. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Absolutely love that for you. Steve, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders and for talking about how working with us feel like. If people want to find out more about you, see what you do, potentially join the community or the program, where should they go?
SteveAugustCoaching.com is the best place. And of course, you can always find me on LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. We'll put all the links in the description. Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you, Guillaume. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How was that, Steve?
I am.